Welcome to the National Soccer Coaches Association of America Winter Webinar Series. My name is David Newberry, and I'm the coordinator of the NSCAA's Club Standards Project, excuse me, an initiative designed to raise the performance of coaches and players one club at a time. Since May 2012, we have had over 800 clubs join the project, representing well over 500,000 players and over 50,000 coaches. The NSCAA is delighted today to welcome Tony Englund, an NSCAA Club Standards Project consultant, to present today's topic, which is an encore presentation of designing and implementing a progressive goalkeeper development program. Tony has over 22 years of high-level coaching experience, and his teams have earned multiple state championships, and dozens of his former players have gone on to play at the highest levels. Tony has nearly a decade of experience as the Director of Coaching and is currently the Assistant Director of Coaching for St. Croix Soccer Club and an Assistant Men's and Women's Coach at Luther College. Tony has been an NSCAA Associate Coach since 2001 and holds more than a dozen NSCAA Coaching Awards. He has a master's degree in Diplomatic and Military History from the University of Minnesota, and is a frequent presenter at symposiums and clinics in the Midwest. He is also the author of 4 popular soccer coaching books. His most recent book, in 2012, Style and Domination, a Tactical Analysis of FC Barcelona, is World-Class Coaching's best-selling book of 2012. Tony was recently appointed as a consultant for the NSCAA Club Standards Project. Welcome, Tony, once again for this great presentation.
Thank you, Dave. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the presentation. I want to thank everybody for taking time out this evening to join us here. And I want to give you just a quick overview of what we're going to be looking at here with regard to the goalkeeping, and then we'll proceed with the presentation. First of all, by way of introduction, I think the topic of goalkeeping draws in people from all different areas of club experience and responsibility. It's kind of the elephant in the middle of the room a lot of times, and my experience in sitting down with club directors when it comes up, particularly in the sense of curriculum, responsibility, promotion, all of these things I think are great challenges for people. And so we wanted tonight kind of look at some of the difficulties, some of the opportunities involved. What does a good goalkeeping program at the club level look like? What are some critical features of any good program? We'll also give you the opportunity at the end of the presentation to gain access through our LinkedIn discussion area to a sample club program that I've put together that we'll be happy to email out to you, that also has support resources, etc. And finally, we'll just take a brief look at one session helping goalkeepers to deal with breakaway situations. So first of all, over 22 years of coaching, my experience has been that visiting any club, there are basically 3 different types of how we could classify goalkeeping being coached at the club level. First of all, no specific program, which is less and less frequent, thankfully. Quite often it's the team coach's responsibility in many clubs, and a lot of those team coaches will, of course, hire out and bring in an expert or maybe a parent to work with a goalkeeper or an assistant coach. The third type, and what I would argue is the strongest setting, is clubs that bring in a specialist to do their goalkeeper training. Sometimes this is done in isolation with specialized goalkeeper training. Sometimes the various goalkeeper trainers will go around and work with the teams in that setting as well. And I would argue that both of those particular modes of training are ideal. The challenges of putting in a good goalkeeping program, and both as a consultant for the NSCAA and also as a club director and a clinician, these are the things that people approach me with and say, you know, these the barriers that we have to creating a good goalkeeper program. First of all, expertise. Particularly in smaller clubs in rural areas, sometimes there just are not specialists available. Thankfully, that is a program or a condition that is lessening as more and more people play the game and become parents who have played the game and played the position. But it still is a concern. Educating coaches. Does one's club have the money and the ability to bring in experts who can train the coaches then so that they actually have a program in mind when they're working with their goalkeepers? Funding is another concern. If you live in the northern hemisphere, as I do here in St. Paul, and most of your training is done indoors in the winter, do you have the time and the facilities available to be able to run specialized goalkeeper training? And then, of course, how does one pay for the staff? In some club situations, it's not always easy to know where that money is going to come from, and planning is involved there, obviously. And then finally, curriculum design. I think one of the things that is most troubling to me even today is that a lot of goalkeeper training is done on kind of an ad hoc basis. People hire it out and then assume that it's going to look okay, or that at least these goalkeepers are getting fundamental training, etc. And so a lot of times we see goalkeeper training without a comprehensively designed program. Another concern, and one that I'm going to harp on a little bit here in the presentation, is that once these things are implemented, is there the possibility for review of the program and refinement? So in other words, who's responsible for the oversight and refinement of the program as it goes along? The opportunities, and I think these are fairly obvious, but important to point out in emphasizing, the importance of what we're talking about here. Failure to develop goalkeepers leads to limited potential for teams. I think most team coaches would say at one point or another the success arc for their team had been limited by a goalkeeper who was unable to help the team achieve at the level that it possibly could. Extending from that point, this is the most critical position on the field. Having a good goalkeeper improves play on both sides of the ball. Just think in terms of your distribution, your ability to get forward, or perhaps to play out with support out of the back, the ability to organize the defense, your confidence at set pieces on the defending side of the ball, penalty kicks in an emergency situation. Goalkeeping really plays a critical function in the game and needs to be brought to the center of club planning. And finally, in the opportunities, the idea is that coaching and education are improving. Both the NSCAA and the USSF offer extensive goalkeeper coach training programs now that are available pretty easily if one is looking. And I think we have the opportunity now to really get coaches involved much more easily than in years past. And a final salient point, as a former college coach and a longtime club and high school coach, there's never a shortage of demand for quality goalkeepers, and so I think we give more kids the opportunity to play at a higher level and play the game longer if we do a good job training our goalkeepers. So those are some of the opportunities. Looking at considerations, so if one were sitting down in a board meeting, I would frame the discussion in this fashion. What are we looking at from an administrative level as considerations when we're designing a goalkeeper program? First of all, the size of the club obviously has implications. If you have 2 teams, your goalkeeper program is going to look a lot different than if you have 70 teams. And related to that, the financial implications. Again, do you have facilities available? What will you be able to put forward for staffing? Specific equipment. I've worked with clubs where there were no full-size goals inside of their domes or their training facilities, and really having the appropriate size goals for whatever age goalkeepers were coaching is critical for them to get the proper feel. Other considerations equipment-wise: medicine balls, extra soccer balls, cones, hurdles, ladders, right on down the line, all very important. And I would even argue video equipment so that the goalkeepers get video feedback as well. And thus, at an administrative level, will there be extra fees because of the goalkeeper program? The scope of the goalkeeper program. In other words, are we training goalkeepers from U9 to U19, or are we just focusing on specialized goalkeepers, probably from U13 up? What levels are we coaching? Hopefully all of them. And then oversight of the program, again, this is a major concern, I think. If there's a DOC within the club, I would argue that that DOC should be responsible for oversight and also being educated themselves a bit in the art of coaching goalkeepers. And then promotion. I've worked with several clubs where the promotion of the goalkeeping program left lots of people wondering when the training was, how often is there a cost, and I think it's really important, particularly through club websites, communication with club team coaches, etc., that the program be put out there in a fashion where the goalkeepers are strongly encouraged to attend. From a DOC's perspective, or a Director of Player Development, what kinds of things would we think about as considerations in designing a program? Again, the target goalkeeper group. The first time that we ran this webinar, a lot of the questions that came back were, when would you start educating goalkeepers? And my opinion is that, for instance, in Minnesota, competitive starts at age 9, or U9 rather, and I think at 9 and 10, everybody should get a little bit of goalkeeper training. It's good agility, hand-eye coordination, it's footwork, it's being less afraid of the ball, developing an appreciation for the goalkeeping position, all of these things. And obviously we want the kids to have as complete an experience as possible. And so I think, you know, designing a program where kids have that opportunity is very important. The ability range. I have seen club situations where the premier or academy goalkeepers are getting all kinds of coaching, and the classic or recreational level goalkeepers have no specialist. And I think we do a disservice to the kids if they do not all have the opportunity to have access to goalkeeping coaching. The club means, again, we already referenced budget, staff. Do you have people on your staff as a DOC who are goalkeeping specialists, and can you offer them proper incentives and kind of bring them on board in a sense where they buy in as well, that this is an important component. Facilities, equipment, again, we already referenced those, but from a DOC perspective, part of your consideration in your overall club design. Other items, the curriculum. Again, you'll have the opportunity to receive a sample club curriculum for goalkeeper coaching, and I think the scope is a critical one, both in the sense of making sure that there's enough content where you're challenging all of your goalkeepers and also giving them a complete skill set. And then also think in terms of how often or how long does your program run. In my current club, we offer goalkeeper training twice a week from November through March, and then outside there's more limited goalkeeper training when our regular club season is running. But I think having it available through most of the year is definitely the way to go. Assessment, very important, as with field players, that we give players feedback. And I think goalkeepers do not get the quality and frequency of feedback that they probably should, both video and written, as well as verbal, of course. And then finally, staff oversight. Is this goalkeeper trainer working off by themselves? Do they report in directly? Does the DOC or another specialist oversee some of the work? And I think that's a very important part of doing the job well. So if we designed our program and then went back and started looking at some of the pillars of a quality program, these are some of the things that usually stand out in the best programs that I've encountered. First-rate staff, appropriate facilities and equipment, and again, having right-sized goals, enough space, shooters perhaps when necessary, the appropriate trainer ratio, you see that down below here, I think is very important. Grouping kids appropriately. Having U12 kids working with U18 kids is obviously going to diminish the quality of your training for the older kids if that's done on a regular basis. And then, of course, ability, too. We have to both challenge and also build confidence in goalkeepers at every age and level. Further considerations are things we see in very good goalkeeper programs. Planned sessions with a progressive design. Again, I think a lot of us are probably satisfied with making sure kids get some touches and some footwork. And I think really good quality goalkeeper programs have trainers who have written sessions that they bring along that have a program design that is progressive, so that if we're doing footwork and handling early on, maybe several weeks into the program, we're to the point where we're looking at breakaways and dealing with crosses, set pieces, communication, organizing the defense. And again, looking at all 4 pillars so that the goalkeepers have the opportunity to get complete training, just as we always look for with the field players. And then one on the bottom here that I think is important and is generally underrated, excuse me, is the idea that we'd like to see clubs send specialists out to watch goalkeepers play in a game situation, whether it's a scrimmage or a regular match, so that they get some feedback other than just what they get at halftime and after the game from the team coach, who has obviously larger concerns. The last couple items here, the frequency of that feedback. I think if there's regular feedback, it really helps the goalkeeper feel connected and as if their progress really matters. College placement. Again, the college coaches are out there looking for quality goalkeepers. I think it's important that we are reaching out at the club level as well. And then finally, just to hammer this home, the oversight of staff. And if you're a DOC and you're not comfortable overseeing your goalkeeping staff, just from a knowledge perspective, I would encourage you to go out and do some goalkeeper coaching education so that if nothing else, you've got the opportunity to have conversations as a point of encouragement as well as oversight with your goalkeeping staff. So as Dave and I talked about this presentation the first time through, he strongly encouraged me to include a session, which I think is a very good idea. And this is one of my favorites and also the one that I get the most requests for as a clinician, which is, if you're working with a group of goalkeepers in a club setting, what kinds of activities do you do with them to prep them to deal with breakaway situations? And I think unlike footwork and handling and diving, that this is something that a lot of people are a little less comfortable teaching. And so this is a quick series of a set of exercises that I use a great deal in my goalkeeper training for Minnesota Youth Soccer and also at the club level. The warm-up here, something we call mirrors. You can see the 2 goalkeepers there. One goalkeeper leads, the other follows. And the rules are that the goalkeepers perform goalkeeper footwork throughout, and we're in a 6x6 yard grid here, so it's obviously the same width as the goalkeeper box. We're getting them moving around in there, encouraging them to use all of the various types of footwork that they use. And then as a progression, we can add a ball in there, which is kind of nice because then they can get a little bit of handling as well. And I like this idea as a warm-up just because it forces the goalkeepers to be really active, and we obviously want them active and aggressive in a breakaway situation. Progressing it, we would get the goalkeepers working in what we call a blocking line. And here we're working purely with the bravery and technique and safety of the goalkeeper. And you can see we call this an advanced blocking line where the goalkeeper has the opportunity. The goalkeeper is number 1 in the picture. And he or she gets down and smothers a ball off of number 2 and then quickly has to deal with number 3. And I think the importance here is that not only are we doing some blocking work, but we're also getting up and making a second save and having to move forward to make that save, something that, again, we want to grill into the goalkeepers in this situation. So obviously we reverse direction so that the goalkeeper is working both hips in their warm-up as well. Then finally we get into the nuts and bolts of dealing with breakaways. And here we've got a lane that's 6 yards wide, just a little more narrow than the goal, and 12 yards long, which stretches out to the PK mark if we were doing it in front of goal. And the idea here is that we run a gradual progression where the goalkeeper becomes increasingly comfortable taking a ball off of an attacking player. So the first few times through, the attacker, number 2 here, is instructed that they can only dribble the ball and they really take a touch and let the goalkeeper take it away. And then we gradually ramp it up where the attacker fakes a shot and the goalkeeper has to get their feet set. The attacker can dribble at full speed but cannot shoot the ball, and finally you cut the attacker loose. And the idea here is we want the goalkeeper coming out of this feeling like in a 6 yard wide goal where the attacker is limited, that the goalkeeper is confident that they can come out and challenge, show good footwork, be aggressive, and take a few balls away from an attacking player. And then finally, this is what we call the Goalkeeper Challenge, a terrific exercise for two goalkeepers to play with each other. Basically, what we've got here are two goalkeepers standing midway between two goals, about the PK mark. The attacking goalkeeper has the ball and starts with their hand on the ball. The defending goalkeeper starts about 3 yards away. As soon as the attacking goalkeeper removes his or her hand from the ball, the situation is live. And again, if the defending goalkeeper backs up or holds his or her ground, they're going to get scored on. If they're aggressive and get into the feet of the attacking goalkeeper, they're going to limit that player's options and feel that comfort level of being able to really be aggressive and get after an attacker in a tight space there. And we would, of course, end after this particular exercise just going all out breakaways, letting the goalkeeper deal with attacking players coming in. And I think the beauty of this session is it is designed to build goalkeeper confidence in a situation where goalkeepers inherently are not as confident dealing with a player in a 24-by-8 goal with sometimes no pressure on the attacker. So just a quick sample for you. By way of conclusion, first of all, a couple of thank yous. Thank you collectively for attending. I want to thank Dave Newberry for the opportunity to participate in the Club Standards program, which is an outstanding opportunity for clubs to learn really a great deal about how they're doing things and also how other people are doing things. And I think club life is inherently isolationist, and the Club Standards program is an opportunity through the great work of the NSCAA to have that communication where we don't have to be jealous about guarding secrets. We can just share good ideas and improve our programs collectively as we go. Thank you.